Hey everyone, wherever you are in the world, whether you are joining us live or watching the recording later. Welcome, my name is Saidol, and I'm happy to be hosting another session here at Microsoft Hero Community. We are now in the final session of the November, and what a journey, right? We had a lot of session, and we went throughout this month and truly throughout this year. We've basically learned a lot from incredible speakers across wide range of topics in the Microsoft ecosystem, Microsoft world. Just we had basically more than 160 live session and covered 2,000 hours of watch time. Basically, these numbers just not impressive numbers. They are reflected something deeper. And basically, these numbers shows the Microsoft Hero is more than a community. It's a family, a place where we learn, grow, and support each other. With that in mind, we have another great session lineup today. Our speaker, Wim, will be sharing his valuable knowledge about Azure Bastion. And I'm excited to learn more about this particular topic. And basically, we can learn together again at Microsoft Hero stage. So let's get a start. As usual, I have my 2 slides here. So if you would like to connect us, there are some links here. Basically, if you track Microsoft Hero, @Microsoft Hero in Google, so basically you can get access to all of social medias that we have. On top of that, there is a QR code that I just added into the display. So basically, if you scan that, it's navigate you to microsofthero.com website. And if you scroll down all the way down, you can get all the links and basically all the social medias that we have shared in our websites. On top of that, you can get access to the schedule for the next sessions. Basically, we are going to schedule for new sessions based on 2026 plan. It's going to be live soon on our website. So with that said, I have another slide here, which is our code of conduct. So in Microsoft Hero Live session, we expected you to be aware of the others, be friendly, be welcoming and respectful, be open to all questions and viewpoints, be understanding of differences, and be kind of considerate of the others. So good, let's just start. Hey Wim, welcome to another session here.
Thank you for hosting me, I would say. And it's a long time we saw each other, but I'm glad I'm here again.
Yeah.
And I hope I can tell the people something about Azure Bastion. And to be honest, it was one of my first sessions I ever delivered more than 5-6 years ago. So that's why it's also a version 4.
Yes.
So let's hope I can still learn some people a little bit more or something that's new in Azure Bastion, or how you can set it up more secure, more cost management and stuff like that. So
definitely, and it's really important topics because for many of environments you can basically leverage Azure Bastion. So
yeah.
Today's topic, it's going to be one of those that I really like to learn from you. Good. Before we start, I normally ask this question from our amazing speakers. Wim, why do you think Microsoft Learn and technically the documents or information that we can get from Microsoft Learn is important?
Because it can really guide you and help you when you start learning stuff or just looking into stuff. I work all day in Azure, but even I don't know everything, of course. And sometimes it's easy if you come into, you need to set up a new resource somewhere at a customer site. You never saw it, but you need to integrate it in something existing. It can really help you to read about it in the Learn documents. Most of the time, they're quite up to date. If a lot of people change them in the GitHub in the back, but it can really help you. And in my opinion, I'm glad I can read stuff and look at it and then see how it's working in the customer's environment, my own environment. So it's a useful resource whenever you start something new or just want to reread something you did not do for quite a long time or something. It can really help you, I think. So that's why I always go back to it.
Yeah, that's true. That's we always saying make it your homepage, because
something like that. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's pretty much easy to use, and you can learn a lot. Okay, with no wasting more time, I'm going to bring up your deck. So basically, I'm going to be on backstage. If there is anything, just say my name, and I'll be there. If you have any questions, people, just send it into the comments, and Vin will answer to your questions at the end of the session.
I will try to stick in time, and then we will probably have quite a lot of time to answer questions. And otherwise, they can always ping me through Twitter, LinkedIn, whatsoever. I'm always happy to help if I can, of course.
Bravo, perfect. Then good luck.
Yeah,
and
thank you,
people.
Okay, so let me first, everybody seeing my screen. Let me go to, that's maybe a better one. Let me switch this one. And now everybody should have full screen. So welcome everybody to the Azure Bastion session. One does still not simply walk into my VNet. Like I said before, it's the fourth version of this session. It's a session I already brought 5 years ago, but I always adjusted it and changed some things and add some new features and stuff like that. So this is the latest version. What I'm going to talk about, first of all, I'm going to look into the common VM administrative access methods. Then I will see and tell you more about what Azure Bastion is for people who don't know it. I will also show you and tell you more about the latest features, how you can simply deploy and configure it, but also how you can troubleshoot it, secure it, and how you can automate it, mostly for cost optimization and stuff like that. And like Said already said, I will try to keep it in time, so we still have some time for a Q&A. And then you can ask me whatever you want to ask. Before we start, let me also shortly introduce myself. So my name is Wim Matthyssen. I live in Belgium, and I work for a telco, Proximus Next, where I work as an Azure technical advisor and trainer. So I help customers with day-to-day Azure stuff. I also make some architectural diagrams and stuff like that. Next to that, I also deliver all kinds of trainings related to Azure and the Microsoft hybrid cloud most of the time. I'm really focused into Azure Arc, Azure Local, and all those things these days. So yeah, I'm also doing those things. Next to that, I'm also a proud board member of a Belgium user group called MC2MC, Microsoft Cloud and my client management community, where the things we do is every 6 weeks in Belgium, we organize live events where we host around 4 sessions related to Microsoft security, Microsoft Cloud, hybrid cloud, endpoints, and all other things you can think of when you're working with Microsoft. Like I said, I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer, and I think already for 6 years, I'm also a Microsoft MVP for Azure, mostly focused on the areas Azure networking and hybrid cloud these days. If you want to reach out, ask a question after the session, or you just want to have a chat, you can see all my social media info over there. If you want to do it easy, you can also simply scan the QR code. But enough said about me. Our first topic, where we start off, common VM administrative access methods. That's going to be a little bit fast. Let me go back. It was a click or a scroll, I think I did. Yeah, now you already saw quite a lot. It's this one. So the easiest way, but the less secure way to access your VMs in Azure is by running your VMs. You have your NIC and you attach a pip to it. It's the easiest way, but it's also the most unsecure way. It's a nice thing if you started studying. If you're doing Learn and you want to study for an exam, it's an easy way to get access to your VM. But it's not the preferred way to do it when you're running a production environment, because your VM, by the way, will be publicly accessed through the internet, and you can also RP from the internet to your VM, but also attackers can easily get in that way. So not the best way. It's the easiest way, nice for studying, but that's it. Another way, for example, is by adding an Azure load balancer in front of it. Same process. You can, for your Windows VM, make port 3389 available, and for your Linux VMs, you can make port 22, your SSH port available. The difference is when you don't add your PIP associated or connected with your NIC in your VM. Now you put a load balancer in front, and that way you're coming in. It's even less secure. It's the same thing as when you will add a PIP. In a way, I always try to call it security through obscurity. So people think we put something in front of it, and now there's not that easy accessible anymore, or hackers don't know how to get in because there's something in front of it. Not true. It's the same thing. You're good as open as you can get. So it's not the best way if you need to prevent breaches, because hackers can get in through brute force attacks. They can do DDoS attacks. Let me see if I can slip this away. That would be better. And through sport cans, they can also start scanning your IP addresses and other stuff. And one time, if they can get in through that specific VM, probably they can reach other VMs and so on and so on. So it's an easy access way into your environment. And from there, they can do whatever they want. So as Microsoft also always tries to say it, and they're also putting the attention to it, most of the time you have an NSG coupled. Probably you need to open those specific ports, like you can see, 22 for SSH and 3389 in this NSG, the inbound rule. You put it open, and what does Microsoft already say? They put a triangle in front of it, an orange triangle with an exclamation mark into it, pinpointing it out. This isn't that secure. It's better to do it in a different way. I wouldn't do this because now you're just open to the internet. So even Microsoft, whenever you make an NSG, I call this one NSG bad idea, just to pinpoint it out. So despite that, this is a setting I quite regular see at customer environments. I do a lot of assessments. And just to get easy access, they put a PIP onto it on their VM. They open that specific port on that NSG, and you can get in, but also the hackers can get in. It's easy for you, but it's also easy for the rest of the world to get in. So what now? What's a better way to get access to your VMs? Like most of us will know, through a site-to-site VPN or an express route. So you have your on-premises network, you have your Azure environment with your gateway subnet and your gateway, and you connect them, your firewall on-premise to the gateway, and you make a site-to-site VPN. Or if you need more broadband and more security and reliability, you probably, and if you have enough money, because it's not for everyone, of course, you can connect through an express route. Then you have your own private pipe to connect to all your resources. There's also a third option. I always try to tell people also about that one. It's through a point-of-site VPN. So probably at home you have your office PC or your office laptop, and you want to connect from there directly to your Azure environment. Then you can also set up a point-to-site VPN, and then you have a direct pipe from your home device to the Azure environment without going around through the office to another VPN and then going to the Azure environment. So that's the third option. Let's click away. You have different options. The old way was through a certificate. You can even use a self-signed certificate. It's easy to use. I even have a PowerShell script for that one. So you create your own certificates and you set up the point-to-site VPN and you're good to go. A better way to do it, of course, is through Entra ID integration. So as you can see on the screen, you choose your address pool for your point-to-site VPN. In there, the VM, the PC that's connecting will get an IP from that one, from that specific pool. As tunnel type, you choose OpenVPN SSL. As authenticating type, it's still, although it's called Entra ID these days, it's still Azure Active Directory over there. It's still the old name. It's a lot of resources in Azure. You can see it. They're still using old names, even if Microsoft changes the names from time to time. So as authentication type, you still choose Azure Active Directory. Then you look into your tenant, you copy it, the audience, and the issuer. It's really good described. If you want to do it, you can also look at my blog post, for example. But on Microsoft Learn, you can also find all extra info. Then the easiest thing on your PC itself, you install the Azure VPN client. You can simply, if it's your own device, get it from the Microsoft Store, or you can simply download it. When you afterwards connect through the point-of-site VPN, you download the settings. It's an Azure VPN config XML, and then you just configure it, this specific software with that specific XML, and it knows then how to connect to your Azure environment. It's not that complicated. It's not that difficult. Maybe I can show you a little bit. Let me jump. I've not set it up like that now, but if we go to the gateway, so you can see it's Network Foundation, I think, these days. They brought everything together to make it easier for people. It will be the hybrid one, not a network one. Let me see if I can that. It's called under hybrid connectivity these days. You can also find your VPN gateways. If you simply click on those, you can see whatever VPN gateways you have. You click on that one. Let me enlarge it. Azure is luckily quite fast today. You just click underneath the settings on point-to-site configuration, and now you will see our setup another one. This one is IaaS V2, and this one, for example, is different than the one with Active Directory. Over this one, I simply use the Azure certificate, and this is a self-signed certificate. It works. I have the older client on my PC, for example. If I click on my networking and click on VPN, as you can see, it will connect to that specific VNet. If I click connect, it will start connecting. Connect again. It will open something. You click on connect. Connection manager will open. It will see if you have the correct certificate, of course, and then you will be connected. I can already see it probably takes around 5 minutes, so probably it will not pinpoint it out that I'm already connected, but let's see if it already shows it. But you can see at the icon at the bottom that I'm already connected. We can look at it again later on. But that's how it's in a way how you can securely connect to your Azure environment through a point-to-site VPN if you don't have site-to-site or express route. But that's mostly how you would do it if you're working from home or you're working from home at the customer environment. You can do it in this way. But preferred way is to use the Azure Active Directory one. This one is just for showing purposes. Let me open my slides again, bring them big again. Let me swap this. Okay. So I showed you these things. Next to that, you can also still use a jump box. Some people and some companies still do it. But in my opinion, it's a VM you spin up, you connect to that specific VM, and from that VM, you connect to all the other VMs or set things in your environment. But a lot of customers and people still seem to forget is that's also a resource that needs to be updated, needs to be backup, needs to be troubleshooted. It should be a high available one, because if you have a single VM and that one drops, it's a single point of failure because you don't have longer an access point anymore in your environment. So it's a lot of management. You add extra just to get into your environment, and it needs to be a high secure VM. It's not just click, 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 and we set it up. No, it should be highly protected because it's really your entry point. What's an extra layer you can add on top of that one? For example, that jump box will still have probably a public IP, as you can see on that screen. How you can make it more secure is, for example, by using just-in-time VM access. Just-in-time VM access, It's a specific feature you can enable if you have Microsoft Defender for Cloud Server Plan 2. What will it do? It will just give you just the time when you enable it to do your stuff for the amount of time you're allowed to do it. In the back, it will, if it needs an NSG, so that specific subnet will have an NSG, and it will open a specific port at the moment you allow that port to be open. And from a moment, you set it for 3 hours, for example, after those 3 hours, that port will automatically be closed again. You can do it for several ports like 3389, and for Linux VMs, you can do it for port 22. As you can see on the screen, for example, now, on this one, I had 3 VMs enabled for it. You can also see the latest user, so you can also, it's easily to get to know who has accessed those VMs lately. It's a really good logging system in the back, and it will add an extra layer of security on top of all the rest. How do you configure it? You can configure it by default. If you click on it, it's for all the ports. How I mostly do it, just for the port that's required. If it's a Windows VM like this one, it's 3389. Protocol, you can set any. Allowed source IPs. If you look at it, I put it on CIDR and I just added 2. The first one, a 10.1, then was the one specifically for my Azure Bastion subnet, and the 172 was the one for my point-to-site VPN. So only those 2 ranges could access a specific VM over port 3389. At the moment, it was that person was allowed to get access. How do you configure it? You just, in the portal, go to your VM, for example, and even in the back, if it's configured, you just click on configure and request access. It will take around a minute to give you that access and to build that specific NSG setting in the back. And after that minute, you can do your RDP connection over your point-to-site VPN if you want, or through Bastion, whatsoever, doesn't matter. How would it look in the NSG? As you can see, it will add an extra role over here, 3389, with those specific subnet ranges you allowed. And from the moment you enable it and you request the access, it will set that specific setting to allow, so you're then allowed to do it. The only thing required, it's an important one, which will also cost you some extra money, of course. This one is still showing $, so you need to enable server plan 2 on the subscription where that specific VM or VMs needs to be enabled. If you have VMs on more subscriptions, you need to enable this specific setting on Microsoft Defender plan on all those different subscriptions. So if you have 100 VMs and you want to all protect Azure IaaS VMs, and you want to all protect them via JIT, it will cost you some money, but it will already give you an extra layer of security. I can also show you in the portal quickly. Let me jump back over. Here it is. So if you go to the Defender blade, let me click on it. If you scroll down underneath cloud security, you have, let me close this one. You have workload protections. If you open that one, scroll down, you see something like just-in-time VM access. If you click on that one, you can see in my current environment, I play around quite a lot with it. I have one VM which has JIT enabled. You can see it's for port 3389. If I click on edit, for example, it will open. You can see it now only allows my Azure Bastion subnet. So if we now would jump to my hub VNet, you will see that it's that specific subnet range, IP range that's mapped to my Azure Bastion subnet. And I have a time range of 3 hours. You can even set it smaller to 1 hour. It's even more practice, but it's not that easy to troubleshoot or to fix some stuff in the back. If you want to add an extra VM, you can simply click on the not configured ones, or you can do it through automation, of course, but just to show you. At the moment, no extra VMs, unsupported, also no results, but it's still caching this one, I think. So you can simply add extra VMs to that. If you have more VMs in your environment that can be configured, you just configure it. The only thing you need to see is go to the environment settings. Let me open it. Click on the tenant root journey, go to a specific subscription. So let me show you which one it is. My corp one probably. And then you click through and you will see if you click on the plan, for example, for this one, you click on the edit settings. It's opening. It's a little bit slow. You scroll down. It's this specific server plan and you need to put it on. You can also change the plan. Most people will have it on server plan name by default. If you want to use JIT, you just enable server plan 2 and you're good to go. Let me jump back to my slides. Swap it again. So that's how it works. And that's an extra layer of security you can add. But now to the point, what's this session about? It's about Azure Bastion. So what is Azure Bastion? For everybody never used it before or not familiar with it, simply said, Azure Bastion, like you can see on the screen, is a PaaS service that you provision inside your virtual network. It provides secure and seamless RDP or SSH connectivity to your virtual machines, and this directly through the Azure Portal over SSL. That's a mouthful. If we split it down, just remember it's a PaaS service. I always call it a Jumpbox as a service, and it will be provisioned inside your VNet, and it will give you secure RDP and SSH access directly through the Azure Portal and through HTTPS, through SSL, of course. What's the difference? Your VM, first of all, doesn't need a public IP anymore. So no Azure VMs anymore with public IPs, so a lot secure. You also don't require any extra software that needs to be installed. It's completely agentless. It's not that something will be installed inside your IaaS VM. No, completely agentless. In the back, the Azure Bastion hosts are placed in the VM scale set. And what will it do? It will already protect you against port scanning, zero-day exploits, and malware targeting. At the moment, you have 4 SKUs. You have the developer SKU, basic SKU, standard SKU, and premium SKU. And they will always get more expensive if you go from left to right. So the developer is completely free. Basic SKU, certain amount of money. Standard SKU, a little bit of more of money. Also, the opportunity to have more features, and then the premium SKU is the most expensive one. I listed this one. You can also find this one on the Microsoft Learn page. Basic SKU, what will it do? It will already allow you to use to connect to your VMs to RDP SSH. It will also give you VM audio output. You can already work with private keys which are stored in your Azure Key Vault to access your Linux VMs. And it even has the Kerberos authentication. If you're already there, that's a good extra thing you already have. These are the things you get through the basic SKU. Standard SKU, just add some extra features like host scaling, specific custom inbound port. So you can flip around to 3389, maybe to another port, and then do RDP over that custom port, for example. You can even connect to a Windows VM using SSH. You can already upload or download files. Shareable link if you want to give a third party access to your environment or to that specific VM without giving them access to the Azure Portal or vice versa. You can simply share a link. They need a username and password, and then via that way, by opening that link, they can directly connect to your VM without seeing all the other stuff. And you can disable copy and paste. Premium adds most important thing that the extra added is a session recording and private only deployment. So the Bastion host itself doesn't need to require public IP anymore. It's completely in private mode, so no things from outside anymore. Quite important, and a lot of bigger companies find it quite important, is that you can do the session recording, so you can record whatever somebody is doing through Bastion when he's connected to a specific VM, and you can see what he did afterwards. So if you need to audit or check security, it's a good extra feature. It will also cost you quite some money more, but I will get to that a little bit after these slides. Also wanted to explain how it works for the people who don't know. Quite easy. It's a managed appliance. It's a PaaS service that's going to be injected in your VNet. It has a specific subnet, the Azure Bastion subnet. Without that subnet, Azure Bastion can't set up. You can even add an NSG to that specific Azure Bastion subnet. Just keep in mind, if something in that NSG is not configured correctly, so one specific port that's required isn't configured, your deployment will fail. I can tell you that one. It works through SSL, TLS 443, so to the portal, up. You get in, you log into the portal, you get into the Azure Bastion subnet, and then your VMs have a private IP, and then you can connect to your Windows VMs through 3389 or SSH through port 22 for your Linux VMs. So just allow those specific ports, and then the nice thing is your VMs don't no longer need pips to get RDP from outside. Important thing, it's from the first session I did 5-6 years ago. You had to have a Bastion host for every VNet where you wanted to connect your VMs. Luckily, a lot have changed since then. Now you only need one Bastion host. Mostly, best way is also to deploy it in your hub VNet. And then through the peering, it can work through peering. So one Bastion host that can rule them all, and every VM that's connected through a peering through the other VNets. So I think we can always say cheers to that one. So how would it look if you look at the diagram? Simply, your Azure Bastion is deployed in the Azure Bastion subnet, which is a subnet in your hub virtual network. Then you have your production scopes where specific VMs in a specific subnet. That specific VNet is paired with the hub VNet, and you're good to go. So you can also have your non-production spoke virtual network where also your dev VMs, test VMs, whatsoever, everything that's not production, simply pair that specific VNet with the hub VNet, and you're good to go. The Azure Bastion can help you to reach all VMs in that way. So before you had to deploy Azure Bastion host with the subnet in every of these VNets, and now we can just work around through peering. So in a way, if you have a big environment, peering starts to get important, especially if you're still running quite a large number of VMs. Only expectations, sorry. The developer, that's a free one. And what's the biggest difference? That one doesn't require the Azure Bastion subnet, but also does not support VNet peering. So you can simply click on a VM, access it through Bastion. In the back, Microsoft will spin up a Bastion host, but you can only access those specific VMs. And all those extra features you saw in the basic SKU, standard SKU, and premium SKU are not available. It's just to quickly RDP or SSH to a VM without you, as the developer, most of the time don't have the hassle to think of the VNets. I need a specific subnet. I need to adjust the NSG. No, it's simply click away, use it, and you're good to go. A question I also get quite a lot, but more with the bigger organizations, and especially the ones that use Virtual One. Does Azure Bastion support Virtual One, and can it be used in the Virtual One environment? Yes, it can. Only big thing you need to remember is that Azure Bastion can't be deployed within the Azure Virtual One hub. That's not supported. So you can only deploy the Azure Bastion host in a separated spoke VNet and only use the IP-based configuration feature. So you need to access the VMs not on their name, but on the IP. That's the biggest difference. If you're next to that also using your Virtual One Azure Firewall, you can see it. The secure virtual hub, the default 000 route must not be overwritten, otherwise it doesn't work. So you need to use a custom Azure Bastion routing table. This is most of the time only for the big environments that are already using Virtual One, but then the deployment of the Azure Bastion is not like you would do it in a normal hub spoke network. It's a little bit different, but you can get it done and it works. If you ever need to set it up and you're not sure to do it, a good friend of mine, Didier van Hooyen, wrote a blog post about it. I would say look for that one, and it can already help you out. Use cases, that's a question I also get from some customers. Why would we ever spin up an Azure Bastion host? Because it will cost us some money, and we need to see that it's worth the money. So you don't have an express route available, there is no site-to-site VPN and point-to-site VPN, and you still want to access your VMs in a more traditional way through RDP or SSH. You can simply go set up Azure Bastion, go to the portal, and from there connect to your VMs without any VPN connection or whatsoever. Even normal jump box, you spin up a VM, but that's port 3389, for example, for security is not allowed. Your VMs are more expensive, then you can start looking into Azure Bastion. There's a hard requirement for connectivity that you use port 443, so it needs to be HTTPS, otherwise security doesn't allow it. Then you also end up with Azure Bastion. If you don't want to be hassled with all the management, like I said before, it's still a VM you need to update, you need to secure it, you need to make it high available, or it just needs to be PaaS, the thing you're connecting with, then you can simply use Azure Bastion. And sometimes in the beginning, people also use an RDS gateway to connect or jump to. If that's not an option, you also end up probably with Azure Bastion. It needs to be something that's easily deployable or removable. Then you can easily spin up Azure Bastion, because it takes you 10 minutes if you script it good. It doesn't matter if you do it to Bicep or whatsoever. Spin it up, it takes you 10 minutes to set it up, and you're good to go. Or you just need temporary access, no analysis servers like VPN, and you don't have access to the VNet or whatsoever, just spin up an Azure Bastion, an Azure Bastion subnet host, and you're good to go. Or you need to combine stuff with JIT. It's all available through Bastion. So a lot of use cases. Most of the time, if you're already using a jump host, it's a better option to use Azure Bastion if you configure it so it doesn't cost you the amount of money like I would show you now. So another important question I get quite a lot is the pricing. I put it in West Europe region, in euros, of course. You can easily look it up if you go to Azure Bastion pricing, type it in Google or Bing. Sorry, it should be Bing if I'm Microsoft. Just type it in Azure Bastion pricing, you can look into it. So Azure Bastion Basic costs you around 0.163 euros per hour. The Azure Bastion Standard for 2 instances already costs a little bit more. If you then look into the premium, once again, it will cost you a little bit more per hour. But next to that, just the instances itself or Azure Bastion host itself, you also need to keep in mind all the data that's passing by, because you also pay for that one. So luckily, the first 5 gigs each month are completely free, and then you pay a specific price for the amount of gigs you go over that one. So you pay a specific price per gigs between 5 gigs and 10 terabyte each month. If you're over 40 terabyte, the price goes up. Over 100 terabyte, once again, the price will also go up. And if you're one of the big spenders, I would advise you, especially if you go over 150 terabyte, to contact Azure Sales. That's how you need to do it. And then see if you get a specific price, I would guess. Also keep in mind that now you can also add additional instances to your Azure Bastion setup. For the standard one, you pay that amount of money per hour. And for a premium one, you pay that amount of money an hour. This is nice. Everything is in hours. So we definitely still don't know what the Azure cost for Azure Bastion will be at the end of the month when you pay your Azure bill. Luckily, I'm quite easy in doing the math. So West Europe, basic one, for 730 hours, that's a full month, you will pay 118 euros, point. That's, for some people, already quite a lot of money. For the standard one, it will go up. It's already 181 euros and a half. And for the premium one, it's €100 extra again, it's €281. That's already quite a lot of money for a lot of people. So what do I see in the wild when I work with customers? This one is mostly used in banks or whatsoever is still using IaaS. All the other ones, the one I mostly deploy is the basic one. And then if I need specific features, I use another Azure automation, for example, to easily switch from a basic one to a standard one. And then afterwards, when I don't no longer need those specific features, to drop it back to a basic one. That's a trick. So that can already help you save you quite some money. Of course, it needs to be deployed and configured. How would you do that one? First of all, you need an Azure Bastion subnet. That specific Azure Bastion subnet, as you can now see on the screen, in my environment is always in the hub. It needs to be a /26 or larger, and you need to associate an NSG and no route table on it. You can also don't associate an NSG, but if you want to look into it from a zero trust perspective and you want to make it as secure as possible, I would advise an NSG. How would that NSG look like? You need to open quite a lot of configurations. You need to do a lot of configurations on the inbound security rules and also on the outbound security rules. Inbound security rules, all of these needs to be in there. If you're simply missing one, it will not work. What I mostly do, configure those and then block everything so the default inbound rules don't get worked, because then you're working around everything. If you want to look at this, for example, I wrote a PowerShell script. It's in my GitHub, and that will completely set up your Azure Bastion as a basic or a standard one. We'll also configure your Azure Bastion subnet if it's not already available in your hub, and it will also configure your complete NSG with all those specific required inbound, but also with all those required outbound security rules. So once again, I try to split them up, but all of these needs to be in there, or otherwise you will get something like this. Fail to save the subnet because your NSG is not allowing a specific rule or a specific port that needs to be required. This, of course, is through ClickUps. If you click your way through it, it's not the same error you would see when you do it to Azure PowerShell or Bicep, but it's just to give you an idea. If something is wrong or you change something afterwards in that specific NSG, or you delete a specific inbound rule that's required, you will be not allowed to save it anymore. So it needs to be there. Next to that, what I mostly do in customer environments, also in my environment, I also create a specific NSG where that's mounted to the target VM subnet, so the subnet where my VMs are part of. And I just allow RDP 3389 from the Azure Bastion subnet, or allow SSH from the Azure Bastion subnet. Here you can see, once again, I end up with a 900 rule to deny any other traffic, and so that those default rules that are in there also don't get walked through. So in this NSG, for example, only Azure Bastion subnet or the Azure Bastion host is allowed to connect to VMs on port 3389 or 22. That's it. So I would advise, if you set it up like this and you're still running quite a lot of VMs with subnets, even if you're using already Azure Firewall, I would advise to also configure those NSGs on those target VM subnets. What's another thing that's required? Like I said before, if you don't do the private only one, that's only in the premium SKU, you require a public IP address. It needs to be a static standard SKU PIP, which needs to be used by your Azure Bastion host to do its stuff. Without that one, it won't work, and it needs to be exactly a static standard one. All other public types of IPs or SKUs won't work. So also keep an eye on that one. Naming and tags, most of the time use a specific separated resource group to store everything related to Azure Bastion. You can see it like I name it RGB hub resource group, which is in my hub. MHH is the short abbreviation of my company, my HC journey. So it's a 3-letter abbreviation. It's for Bastion, and I also use a specific numbering 01. That naming structure also follows for the Bastion host. Like you can see, it's for Bastion. It's in my hub, my say journey abbreviation, and then 01. And the same thing for my pip. So I can easily see that that specific pip is the one being used by my Bastion host. Another thing that, in my opinion, from a governance perspective, is also quite important is use the specific tags that are required. So I always use cost center, criticality, environment, and purpose. So cost center, that whoever uses it gets that specific part that needs to be paid on the Azure bill. But an important one that I also quietly find important when using with Azure Bastion is by knowing that in which VNet it exists. So also add that specific tag to my Bastion host. Just in a customer environment, it's easier to find out where the hub is or whatsoever. You can add an extra layer of security on top of it by using specific RBAC rules. If you only want to grant people access to Azure Bastion so they can't do anything else in the Azure environment, just use Azure Bastion to connect via RDP to a Windows VM or through SSH to a Linux VM. That's the things that are required. I create a specific security group. You can see it, security group, Bastion host, the name of the Bastion host. And what is required, virtual machine user login role at the subscription level. Right? You can see this one. So on the description where the VMs are, you require that one. And then next to that, you also need to have the reader role, the risk group of the Azure Bastion host. Otherwise, you're not able to use Azure Bastion. How does it work? For example, if you look at the Azure Portal, how does it look like? Let me close this one. If I just go to the global search bar and type in Bastion quickly, you, for example, can see that I have two Bastion hosts for the moment. This one is one used in my sandbox, and it's the developer's queue. Can I click on it? I can look at it. Configuration, you will see the developer. I can upgrade it, but if I want to try to upgrade it, I require an Azure Bastion subnet. At the moment, in that specific environment, that VNet doesn't have an Azure Bastion subnet. So I simply can go to a specific VM in that sandbox and use Azure Bastion because in the back it's pinned up in the developer's queue. But let us focus on a more traditional Bastion host. You can see my Bastion host over here. Let me open it a little bit more. If you click on the configuration, you can see this one is a standard queue. One thing I want to pinpoint out is you can easily upgrade from a basic queue to a standard queue and then from a standard queue to a premium queue. But if you want to downgrade, it's another process. You even can't do it through the portal. I also wrote some scripts about it. The thing you need to do is to kill off the standard Bastion host, keep all required resources, and then spin up a new Bastion host with the lesser queue. That's how it works. It's not downgradable on a click. Depending on which SKU you choose, you can select specific features you want. You can see that I now have a standard SKU and I can enable all of these except the session recording because that's only available when you use a premium SKU. An important thing that also always enable is diagnostic settings. Why? In that way, you can use Azure Monitor and it will all information and all settings will, let me click on it. All the settings and the logs and the metrics will be stored in your log analytics. And that's an easy way how you can use the logs to see who has access, which specific VM at what time, etc., etc. So my advice is, especially for Azure Bastion and even for every Azure network resource in your environment, always enable your diagnostic settings, send them to a central log analytics workspace. Like in my case, it's in my management sub and it's one central one. And now from there, you can look into everything related to that one. You also have connection troubleshoot, but let me show you, for example, I have some virtual machines running, how it works. If you click on virtual machines, I can level it up again. I have two, which I want to connect. I have, let me take this one. I can connect, connect via Bastion, but there's a thing I wanted to show you directly. If I click on connect, you will see this VM has just-in-time VM access enabled. So I first need to have request JIT. It will start the requesting. In the back, it will install that specific NSG, that inbound role in that specific NSG. It will take up a minute normally. And everything is go, you can then click through to Bastion. You can't go directly to Bastion. You just first need to, if that specific VM or you're using JIT in your environment, you first need to open the VM blade to get access. Let that one go on further. Let me quickly use this one. This one is not using JIT. I can simply click on connect Bastion. I can choose a protocol or a or SSH. It's a Windows VM, so it's RDP. You can even change the keyboard, whatever setting you're using. I'm from Belgium, so I choose Belgian French. You can use VM password. And you can simply type in the password and click on connect. And then it will open an extra tab in your browser and it will connect. That's it. You can do a copy and paste. If you type in Notepad and you send it, you can use a text you typed in your Notepad over here and that's it. But you can't, for example, select a file on your VM on your device you're using and then get that file into the RDP system. That's currently not available. It's available if you use the premium SKU, for example. If you now, for example, go back to the other VM, let me take this one, S3PIP01. Normally, the JIT should be okay. If you check the access, you can see it would, but let's just check it. I must see I have enough time still. If you go to Bastion, you can see it again. Port RDP is also Windows VM. Let me choose Belgian French. Difference, for example, I can use a password, but also can connect to my Key Vault. Let me type in the username. You can see the Key Vault. It's on that specific. You select the subscription where the Key Vault is. My environment currently is the management one. Select the Key Vault. You can also select a specific secret or key out of your Key Vault. Let me get my super secret password. You can connect and it's using JIT and it's also connecting. So more secure, extra layer. Difference with the previous one is where I just type username and password. And the second one, it's combined with JIT and it's getting its secret from out of the Key Vault. You can even protect the Key Vault with private link and stuff like that. If you do that, then you need to configure a specific setting on your Key Vault. Let me quickly show you. If you go back to the Key Vault, it's this Key Vault. What's the thing you need to allow? Otherwise, it won't work. If you go to networking, suppose this one is disable public access because it's using a private endpoint, then you need to switch from a disable public access to allow public access. And then you need the IP address of the environment you're connecting from. It's my public IP address of my home. So if I go to what's my IP, you will see it will match that specific one. What's my IP? Accept all. Okay, it's at 81. You need to add that in the addresses that are allowed, and that will also work because Azure Bastion is not integrated, trusted Microsoft service for some way inside of private link. Can I show you quickly? Maybe I just demo it. It will cost you some amount of money at the end of the month. How can you make it a little bit cheaper? Through Azure Automation. So I have an automation account. Let me jump to it. It's called this one. What did I do? Created a runbook. two runbooks. One to create a Bastion host, another one to delete the Bastion hosts. What will it do? If we click on the create one, if you look at the jobs, for example, what will it do? It will build up the Azure Bastion host 15 minutes before the start of the working day. So if a company starts at 8 a.m., it will spin up the Bastion host at 7:45 because it takes 10 minutes. So whenever the first IT person wants to use Azure Bastion, when the working day starts, it's already there. What does the other runbook do? It will delete the Bastion at the end of the day. So for example, at 8 p.m. in the evening, it will delete the Bastion host. It will leave the pip where it is, but it will delete the Bastion host. And at the end of the month, what will it do? You only pay for the amount of time that the Bastion host is available. So every day you're just paying for the 8 hours. So if you make the math, you already decrease the price with more than half. It's a simple way just to make that specific 100 euros to max 40 euros, I think it is, just by using Azure Bastion. Just create a runbook. This one is purely simple. If you look at edit, I will edit in the portal, is simple PowerShell. If you go to my GitHub, I will see if I can show you. Where is my GitHub? Let me see if I can jump to it. No, this is my GitHub. If you go to my GitHub, you can find all the information on my Twitter and LinkedIn if you want. You can see I have quite a lot of scripts in there. Also on my blog, I have quite a lot of blog posts related to Azure Bastion. All those optimization tricks, all those things you need to use to make it more secure. They're all in there. Everything is written in separated blog posts. I also have connect RDP through your local RDP client. So you can use your local RDP client to connect to an Azure VM. That's something I maybe can quickly show you. I wrote a script which uses my own MSTSC, my own RDP connection on my own device, and it will connect to the Azure VM running in there. So let me see if I can do it. Normally JIT is already enabled. It will hopefully don't take that long. I still have 2 minutes, I think, Said, if I'm correct. In the back, it's Azure CLI combined with Azure PowerShell. So first of all, it will check your Azure CLI if it's up to date. If not, it will first do it. That's why it can take up to 90 minutes if your configuration is not that good. You can now see that the Bastion host subscription in the current tenant is selected. I created a Bastion variable. He checks if the native client support, which is available when you're using the standard queue, is there. And now it's already setting up a remote desktop connection to target VM. It will open my remote desktop connection on my PC. I click on connect. That's also because I have the point-to-site VPN already enabled. I click on connect. It will open it, and then I will type in my super secret password. And let's hope that one works. And now I'm RDPing over Azure Bastion to that specific Azure VM running inside of Azure. So a lot of features are possible. A lot of features are added. Let me close this one. And look at all my PowerShell scripts. I can talk about this for 2-3 hours, of course. I jumped quickly to the latest stuff and the fun stuff. What you should keep in mind, try to make the price of your Azure Bastion host, if you're using it, as small as possible through Azure Automation. Make it as secure as possible. Use JIT if you have the money for it, in combination with the NSG. Secure it down. Use NSGs on the VM subnets, and then combine it with Azure Firewall and all those other things. And then I think you already have quite a zero trust ready environment where you can start using Azure Bastion. And I think with that being said, I'm at a marker of 7. And my hour is gone. If you want to have some advice, tips, tricks about Azure Bastion, just ping me. I'm here to help.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Wim. Amazing as always. And I
It's
suggest
a lot of
everyone.
things I can talk about. So I think I have 30 slides more, but I jumped to the demo stuff, and hopefully I already showed some nice things you can do with it.
Definitely.
Maybe next time I just do a demo session or something.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I love demo sessions. But if you want to learn more, and also if you want to see a lot of interesting things, I suggest you to check out Vim's GitHub page, so you can see a lot of amazing things there. Also, we got this thank you for you from Pablo, and actually, I've got a message. Basically, you already answered to many part of that, but I'm going to show it up here.
Just show me.
Yeah, so how do we design an Azure Bastion development that supports multi-region, multi-subscription landing zones while avoiding public exposure, minimizing cost, and preventing
I
duplicate
think I
work?
already answered that
Yeah,
one.
that's
Yeah,
I mentioned.
yeah. You can use global peering also, global VNet peering. So we can have subscriptions in different regions even. And then if you have a central hub and your Azure Bastion subnet is in there and you peer every VNet wherever it's running, you can probably and you use that NSGs and you don't use a route table. So you need to go around your Azure firewall, otherwise it doesn't work. And then minimizing cost, Azure automation just by simple PowerShell runbooks. It needs to be version 7.2. It's also explained on my GitHub. I even tried to automate it even more. So you can simply click the PowerShell and even the runbook gets created. I'm not there yet, but I'm looking into that one because I got a question from somebody over there. And then you simply have one Azure Bastion host doing all the stuff in all your environments.
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
you keep the amount of money at the end of the month as low as possible.
exactly.
Because that's the thing I heard from quite a lot of customers. Yeah, it's an expensive resource. Yeah, but if you simply do this, it will cost you half of the money. So no discussion then anymore.
Exactly. That's the point. Many of I'm not saying many of services, but some of
Yeah,
services that you really need to have it in your organization or your environment, and
yeah,
you
if
think,
you're using IaaS VMs, but there are a
yeah,
lot
but
of.
you can fix those things with
Yeah,
some simple automation.
I didn't show you now, but it also works for AKS now. That's one
Yeah,
of the latest additions, and it also works with Entra ID now. So the thing I use the local user now. You can also use the domain user, and then you need to add in your domain with the username. But you can also integrate it now with Entra ID. I'll write a blog post about that one. It will be online next week or week after, I think. So if just with an account that's inside your Entra, a cloud-only one, you can even connect to your servers.
yeah, definitely. That's amazing. Perfect. We got another comment. Very interesting session. Wim,
That's a
thanks.
Belgian one.
Yeah. Okay, nice. Perfect. So we can
Yo,
correlate
I
that.
also
It's coming
saw
from
that
a
one
friend.
live sometime. I thought. I think it was in one of my sessions. I think. Yeah, it's somebody that also visits MC2MC quite a lot. So
Okay, nice.
yeah.
And
So
one
I
thing
put on
about
my
your
turbo
community,
modus now.
yeah, one thing's about your community. Very soon you are going to have on in-person event.
Yeah, so we have a live. We call it MC2MC live. That's also free for attendees, but it's in person in Belgium, of course. That's on the 17th, and then in February we have a full day event even.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Jona
So
is coming, for
for sure,
example.
for
Yeah,
sure, for sure.
yeah. So
Good,
she's
good,
there.
perfect. There is no more comments or questions.
Yeah.
Again, thank you so much, Wim. It
If
was
anybody has a question later on, just ping me. I'm here to help.
exactly. Good, perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. It was our last session in November. It was really nice. And then until the next session, wish you a great week, month. Sorry, month and week ahead. And enjoy your day. Talk to you soon. Take care. Bye for now.
Bye bye.